All right, let me know when to start.
So if we're really waiting for some time, why don't we do something until then? So we
Sure,
have
sir.
about like how many? Some 20 plus people, right?
Yes, sir.
Um, uh, can people type in the meeting chat? What do you want your first job to be? And then, assuming that you will do that for some time, what do you want your second job to be? First one and second one.
Okay.
And that's for everybody in the
Yeah, yeah.
call right now. The ones who are with camera, without camera, everybody. Except me and Melvin. I don't see anything in the
Should
chat
we
yet.
should we really need to have a second? What if it?
Yes. Yeah, that's the whole idea beyond the first job.
Yeah.
So Kamal, medical affairs is not a job, it is a domain. I asked about the
Okay.
job. Same goes to Kalyan. Pharmacovigilance is a domain. Think jobs. Medical reviewer, good. Medical advisor, medical reviewer. Amit Bhatt says clinical pharmacologist at a CRO, second job, professor at university in PV. Okay. Deepan RNA. So Amrit, medical strategist, what does that mean?
Sir, I'm not really sure if there's a domain, but what I'm hoping to do is, you know, probably try to understand, that particular firm's, ideology, and then
Mhm.
maybe find ways to help them achieve that, like in terms of if it's just a particular area that they are functioning, let's just say they're only dealing with one particular group of drugs. So
Mm.
how do we get that market demand? Like first we need to understand if there's a demand for
Mm.
that particular drug in that market. And then
Mm.
second is we have to strategize on, how can we bring our product in the pipeline? And
Mm.
then I think somewhere I want to do with the regulatory framework also.
Mm.
So this is my understanding. I'm not sure if,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, so that's a good idea. It basically indicates that you want to try different domains in the industry.
okay. Yeah.
Will this come under something called medical ideation? Something ideation manager? Is it something like that or it's different?
No, so the ideation is basically the people who are working in the development side or, at the portfolio level to really understand what molecules make sense to bring into our pipeline.
No.
Now, sometimes this can happen at an individual country affiliate level,
Mhm.
sometimes at a global level, sometimes entirely differently.
No.
So Nachiket wants to get into marketing. That's good. Yeah. And I think at least I've seen 2 or 3 people who wanted to work in the industry and get back into academics.
Yeah, that seems to be like unsafe. I
Something
mean,
like what?
that's the advice that's being, given through
And
multiple.
so for those who said that, you do understand that you will have to take a pay cut when you do that, right?
Yeah.
And you are fine with that.
As in, sir, it's a, how do I say, it's a balance, right? So when they say, okay, when you're going to take a pay cut, as in, like, don't get me wrong, this thing that the advice that usually that's given is, so I talk to almost everybody and say, okay, why haven't I go to the academicians and then I ask, why didn't you go to industry? I go to the industry people and I ask, why didn't you come to academics? Well, there's one set of answers where academic people always say, okay, there's peace of mind. So when you take a pay cut, so as a compensation, you get peace of mind is what they say. But I've not been to the other side. So I don't know.
I just believe it is a retirement plan for these people.
Yeah.
I think
Like
it's
work
the
for 10 years,
stability of
make
it
some
most
corpus.
likely.
Yeah,
I think
it's
the
40
stability of
years
the
and
academics.
he'll be around 40 years now. So work-life balance is more important than,
After 40.
yeah.
So he believes in
Although
life begins at 40.
realistically, if you're rejoining academics, you still start at the lower part of the hierarchy. You still have to climb
Yeah.
up in rank because the academics as well, experience is what counts, right? So you still have to start at assistant professor, associate, and then addition. So that takes time as well.
Excuse me, sir. May I convey my opinion, please? As long as there is some peace of mind, I believe it's totally worth it.
Shall we start the session or it's 45?
I think we could
We
start.
wait.
Yeah.
Will that work? Okay, Sreekanth, Dr. Melvin sir, should we start or will wait?
We can start, but then I think there are some people who are not on mute, so just take care of them.
Yeah.
We can start.
Shall we begin? Yeah. All right. Good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome to this exciting online webinar titled Career Aspects in the Industry After MD Pharmacology Beyond the First Job. I'm Dr. Amrit, your host for this evening. I'll be facilitating today's session, and I promise I'll try not to sound like a drug package insert, which is long, confusing, and with too many side effects. This event is proudly brought to you by AIPR in collaboration with CPD, with one goal in mind: to help us understand what lies beyond residency and how we all can carve a meaningful, impactful, and maybe even international career in pharma and clinical research. So we're honored to have two phenomenal speakers with us. Dr. Sreekanth Gattu, currently a pharmaceutical physician and course lead with extensive experience across therapeutic areas and global pharma programs. He's currently based in Switzerland, the land of chocolates and clinical trials. Next, we have Dr. Professor Melvin George, sir. He's the course director and head of the Center for Clinical Pharmacology and Clinical Trials and Research at SRM Medical College and Research Institute in Chennai. Sir has a research output which is longer than any of our thesis word limits. So let's welcome them. And without any further ado, I invite Dr. Kamal to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Sreekanth Gattu, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Amrit. So next slide, please. So I'm very happy to introduce Dr. Sreekanth Gattu. He has over 16 years of comprehensive experience in pharma and clinical research, with exposure to various therapeutic areas, including biosimilars, oncology, immunology, hemat, respiratory cardio, as well as neurology. Currently, he is a global program head, executive director, Sandoz Bio Switzerland, and his professional qualifications. He has a MSc in advanced oncology. He has executive educations, MSc in pharmaceutical medicine, and he did his MD Pharmacology from Sri Ramachandra Medical College and MBBS from Sri Venkateswara Medical College, Tirupati. And professional associations. He is member of European Society for Medical Oncology. He is a member of American Society of Clinical Oncology. He is a certified physician investigator from APPA as well as ACRP, which are internationally accredited board from USA. So there are a lot more to say about him, But for this session, I will make it short. And to you, Dr. Ria.
All right. I'm honored to also introduce our second speaker of the night, which is Professor Dr. Melvin George, sir. He's currently professor and head at SRM Center for Clinical Pharmacology and the chairperson of the Ethics Committee at Gleneagles Hospital, Chettinad Hospital, and IMA Tambaram IEC. He has completed MBBS, MD, and DM Clinical Pharmacology from JIPMER Pondicherry. He has also conducted several regulatory clinical trials, including multi-centric international RCTs as an investigator in acute coronary syndrome, primary prevention of coronary artery disease, adenomyosis, and COVID 19. He has published 105 publications in various indexed national and international journals with an H index of 22 and 1,300 citations. He's skilled in conducting several clinical trials associated with ACS, heart failure, and CAD. And he has won several research grants from governmental and private funding agencies and has delivered more than 120 guest lectures in national workshops and conferences. So, absolutely, he is one of the esteemed resource faculty for today. So, with that, I invite Dr. Sreekanth sir to deliver his talk. On to you, sir.
Yeah, thanks organizers for making this happen, and it's a really decent crowd. So let me share my screen, and then we'll get started. Okay, so I hope everyone can see my screen now. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's get started. So what are we going to do today is basically we will talk about career aspects in the industry after MD Pharmacology. But when me and Kamal were talking about this session, so nowadays the amount of information that the student community is getting is much more than what me and Melvin used to get. So I think just by the first question that I was asking, most of you are very clear where do you want to start, right? And then you're good, and then there is a part of a honeymoon period depending on which company and which job you're picking up. The duration of honeymoon period varies, and then some people go in the direction of eternal bliss. Some people are happy, some people keep jumping, and some people are frustrated. So I thought, why don't we talk a little bit beyond the first job, right? So there are tons of people available for you in your senior group who can tell you about what's the most hot and sexy job right now. You should definitely go into this, but what is it after beyond that? So today I'll make an attempt to show you the scope, and then you basically have most probably you are around 27 years plus or minus when you're starting your industry career, right? And people in the industry can work until 60 plus. So in essence, you have 30 years with you. And what does that mean? And is it possible that you can plan from a midterm to long-term perspective as well? I'll try to touch those things a little bit and also tell you some tools or forums or courses where you can think beyond this after this webinar as well. So that's my job for today. And a disclaimer: opinions and concepts that I'm presenting today are solely mine and do not necessarily represent my current or previous employer. And any information that I'm presenting is either I took it from the public domain or I created based on my experience. And there are my affiliations. So generally, the pharma industry is quite big. Okay, so what is the most common job? And I'll keep an eye on the meeting chat as well. So I'll try to keep this as interactive as I can. So if I ask a question, please use the meeting chat to give me your answers. So what do you think is the most common part of the pharma industry that you will get into, or you and your peers? Medical advisors, medical affairs domain. What else? Yeah, Satyajyoti says also medical advisor. Anybody else? TV. Okay. So then raise your hand if there are 3 or more unknown domains that you see on the screen. Like, there is a hexagon. It's like, I have no clue what these people are doing. I don't know how to see the hands here, but anyway, so I do still see some hands. Okay, good. So basically, let's try to structure how we can see pharma industry, right? So what you see here are different domains. Okay, so metaphytes is the domain, patents, HEOR, statistics, efficacy, efficacy, safety, regulatory, etc., etc. So when you are doing your MD pharmacology course, you will learn. So these are nothing but you will get your questions, right? So what are the efficacy studies, right? And then what are the common biostatistical tests? What are the regulatory guidelines? What are biomarkers? So it's like there are activities in each of this domain. What you see here is domain, right? But then how do these translate into the companies and jobs? Okay, so um, can one of you unmute and tell me, what have you heard about GCC nowadays in pharma?
Global capacity centers.
Yeah, global capability center.
Capability centers. Okay.
Right. So can anyone give me a couple of examples of GCCs in India?
There's one in Hyderabad. There's one in Bangalore. I'm not sure
You can tell me the name of the company.
maybe AstraZeneca and Novartis.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really sure, but
Yeah. Okay.
Pfizer,
So okay, someone else was saying.
yeah, Pfizer and GlaxoSmithKline as well.
Okay, Pfizer GCC. Where is it located?
I suppose it's Mumbai or Hyderabad.
No, in Chennai. Okay, so we'll come back to that one. Okay, so the most abundantly available one. So the pharma industry is basically I should have prepared one more slide. So it's by and large divided into the companies which are developing the drugs, the companies which are selling the drugs, the companies which are manufacturing the drugs, and the companies which have services that can support these three. Okay, so let's start with the companies which are selling the drugs. Okay, so can someone tell me what kind of companies that you are aware in India which are selling drugs?
All the marketing companies like Cipla, Pfizer, Sun Pharma.
Exactly. So in India, wherever you see marketing and medical affairs, that is the company that is selling the drug. Okay, and then there are companies which are developing the drugs. Can you tell me some of the companies in India that you see which are developing the drugs?
Biocon, Natco, even
Biocon,
Dr.
Natco,
Reddy's.
good. Reddy's, yes. So interestingly, all three of them are Indian pharmaceutical companies, right? So in India, there are only Indian pharma companies which are developing the drugs and primarily selling them in India. But then there are these companies, they also have a global division where they are trying to sell the companies. Once they develop, they sell the companies to US, Europe, and Latin America and rest of the world, right? But can you also tell me some names of some companies which are not Indian companies but are developing the drugs?
Novartis has an R&D in
Pfizer and all these
Hyderabad.
companies.
Yeah, what is Pfizer? Anything
All
else?
this MNCs.
AstraZeneca,
Yeah.
Eli
So
Lilly.
most of the MNCs that you see here have the development part of it. But then typically these companies have their development headquarters either in Europe or in US, right? But then the development is so complex, and that is where this what you see on the slide comes in. If a company is developing a drug, it needs to have each and every domain that you're seeing on the screen. But it's too complex, it's too massive. So what companies, the MNCs do is basically say, okay, so I'll break this down, and then probably a percentage of each of that hexagon, I will put it in my headquarters, and then the remaining percentage of each of that hexagon, I'll put it in an offshore company where it is more efficient for me. And that is called GCC in Indian context, right? So if you take, let's talk about Sanofi now, right? So Sanofi is just getting started in Hyderabad. So they are basically starting with, can you see my, can you see my pointer? Yeah. So what Sanofi is doing right now is they're basically taking a little bit of safety, a little bit of regulatory, and they're starting it, and then maybe a little bit of translational, right? So they're starting, and then they will scale up. And Novartis basically did that in 2005, 2007. They started it in 2005, 6, 7, around that time, and then they really scaled up. And then they, I think, to my knowledge, I'm not at Novartis anymore, but to my knowledge, they probably have a little bit of everything that you see here in Novartis has it. And Novo Nordisk is also expanding. AstraZeneca is also expanding. And there is the latest one is Astellas, which is now just getting started. So there are a lot of MNCs which are focusing on developing drugs, but they also have their rest of the development operations available in India. And then, I said there are companies which are manufacturing. Right. So can you think about companies which are manufacturing in India?
Dr. Reddy itself is a big manufacturer.
Yeah.
Eli Lilly, they
and Pharma.
Serum Institute.
Yeah. So every company, either it is developing or marketing, they need a manufacturing hub. So manufacturing is again divided into manufacturing that supports development, manufacturing that supports selling, right? And any company, if they want to sell in India, they must have a manufacturing plant in India, or they have an agreement with a manufacturing plant in India, right? So this is where there are a lot of Indian manufacturing companies. I think now, if I think about where are these clustered, the clusters of manufacturing hubs are predominantly in Gujarat, Himachal Pradesh, and in Maharashtra, but closer to Mumbai and in Hyderabad. But I have not seen a lot of MD pharmacologists go in this direction. Okay. And then there is a fourth category of companies, which are basically the services. They help support medical affairs, development, and manufacturing. Yeah. So these are CROs. These are, the medical writing companies. There are consultants. There are regulatory consultants. There are health economics people. There are device manufacturers. There are artificial intelligence service providers. There are service providers. The CRO is a big industry. And then pharmacovigilance supporting things. So the Accenture, Cognizant, TCS, and all these things. So all these companies are basically supporting the pharmaceutical companies, which are working on either marketing, selling, or developing, or manufacturing. There are also companies where they're called as management consultants. So, Amrit, you said strategists. So the people who are more strategic oriented. So companies also need an external partner when it comes to strategy. So McKinsey, Bain, BCG, Deloitte. So these are Accenture. These are the companies who have management consultants. Then they also support the overarching part strategy of the pharma industry. Okay, so that is the big picture of pharma. So let's go a little bit deeper. So why is this knowing these things important? So either you go in marketing, selling, medical affairs domain, or in the development. So it's all interconnected. If someone told you that you get into medical affairs, you shine in medical affairs, you cannot shine in medical affairs unless you understand people around you, right? And then whenever you are dealing with people have their own opinion, and which may match with you or may not match with you, right? So that is what we call as perspectives in drug development, and people who have to work in matrix environment. So let me talk about something in efficacy, right? So if I am a clinical research physician sitting in the development part of it, and my role, my designation is medical reviewer or clinical research physician, my accountability is to make sure that I take care of the efficacy part of the drug development. But then when you are doing clinical trials, it is very important to understand the efficacy part of it as well, and the regulatory part of it as well. And then, once you are getting closer to the submission after phase 3, the health economics will come in. Hey, have you not thought about this? I need this data immediately as soon as you are submitting. And then commercial will say, how come you forgot this indication? This is so important. And, it is very, 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 very common in pharma industry that people have different opinions, different perspectives, and as a consequence, there are conflicts all the time, right? So now, if you want to get in, grow, thrive, you not only need to know your domain, you need to know what are the other domains, but you also need to know what those people are thinking about what is important for them, what those people are thinking about what is important for you, and so on and so forth, right? So that's the big picture, and let's zoom in a little bit. So that the zoom out part, now zoom in part. Okay, so I have seen a lot of people among you saying that, okay, so I want to get started in medical affairs, right? So I'm trying to use some older slides which we have used in some of our workshops that me and Melvin did together. So please excuse this patchy work there, but these are the live shots. Okay, so most of you will join as RMA or MSL. The designation differs depending on the company, right? And then some people grow in as senior RMA and MSL, and then some people decide, okay, so I like this. I like being on the field. I like talking to people. I want more flexibility in my job. And I'll go and talk to the office people and others within the company when it is important for them or for me. But I'd like to stay on the field. But then I want to grow. So some people actually take the route of MSL team lead, because there are more number of people depending on the product, which stage it is, or the portfolio or pipeline. You need more. And the companies need team leads. And the team leads can be at a state level or a region level, etc. Right? So, or some people can also take a headquarters-based medical advisor role, where your day-to-day work is not necessarily meeting KOLs and talk about medical communication, but you start getting involved about, okay, so I am getting this drug approved recently, and then I want to plan the launch activities. So if I want to plan launch activities, or the drug is already launched, and then I want to communicate more or develop further more. So this is where the strategy comes in, and then the more of pharma core activities come in. So you already have background of what is happening on the field. So on the field, we have, in the pharma industry, we have users, so consumers and customers, right? So in the world of pharma, these two are different. Our customer is a physician, consumer is the patient, right? So I know what consumers and customers need, but then let me figure out, how can I basically work beyond at a product level. So, and then there is senior medical advisor level, and then some people, after some time, say, okay, so this is good, But then, okay, so I have drug A, drug B, drug C. Then as I grow, I'm responsible for 2 drugs. As I grow, I'm responsible for 3 drugs. But maybe at a country affiliate level, you're talking about a therapy area with 10 drugs, another therapy area with another 10 drugs, and so on and so forth. So when you have multiple drugs, you can always do things efficiently. Right? So you don't have to do everything for a new drug or an existing drug as though you're doing it for the first time. So this is where operations and excellence team come in, and they say, okay, so if the company has 4 therapy areas and 30 drugs across 4 therapy areas, and then out of this 5 drugs are in the launch stage, another 10 drugs are in post-launch stage, and then another 10 drugs in the life cycle maintenance. So what are the activities that you can make it ready-made so that the medical advisors and RMAs can improvise the work and do work efficiently? So those people work in medical excellence and medical operations, right? And then the senior medical advisor, and then once you go a little bit further, you have TA lead. So TA lead, therapy area lead, where you are responsible and accountable for an entire therapy area, right? And then what happens after that? You basically become at a country level medical director. And at a medical director level, you are responsible for multiple therapy areas, multiple drugs, but you are not necessarily doing all these jobs, but making sure that your team is doing good launches, doing good job in medical communications, supporting the sales and marketing and BD, business development folks properly, right? And then, at the medical director level, depending on the company part, so they may also be responsible or accountable for pharmacovigilance, clinical research, medical writing, etc. Now, some people max out here, and they say, okay, so I have done it all in medical director level. Now let me explore something beyond, and then they'll move into marketing, sales, business development. I have seen some people directly after MD Pharmacology doing an MBA and then go here. I have also seen people who started in RMA medical advisor role, said, this is good, but marketing stimulates me more, and then they shifted into that space. I have also seen people went through all the hierarchy and then moved, right? So there is no right or wrong. What is good for you, what motivates you, you can do that. And then there are some people at the medical director level. Yes, I've done it all at a country level. I know what to do at a country level, but at the same time, I want to see, experience, and learn and grow what is happening beyond country. Right? So what is happening in Asia Pacific, what is happening in Africa and rest of the world countries, what is happening in Europe, US, etc. So those people basically move into either regional medical advisor. And I say regional medical advisor, this is where don't get confused with RMA here. This is also an RMA, but this is a high level RMA. So there is a RMA for Asia Pacific. There is an RMA for US. There is an RMA for Europe, etc. Right? And then there is an international medical director where the scope basically gets narrowed to 1 or 2 products, but you are responsible medical affairs director for entire world, right? So there, the work is slightly different. So international medical director or global medical affairs. So that is how the scope of med affairs look like, and where you start, and then how you can grow. And then, this is the scope of pharmacovigilance. It's very busy. The first message that you need to take is, it's not always a review of individual SAEs. If somebody tells you, don't listen to them. Okay, so you start as safety physician here, right? And then you gradually grow, and then one of our so for old P2PC student has created this chat, who's doing very well in pharmacovigilance. So he also took liberty to approximately put, if you just simply follow hierarchy, how many years it will take for you to reach that particular ladder, right? And then, so this whole vertical is about the science and medical aspects of pharmacovigilance. Okay, so you start with looking at individual adverse events, then how do they group into signal, and then risk, and then what does that mean to the product, what does that mean to the patients, etc., etc. And then, I told you about medical operations. There is also safety operations, right? And then there are also safety sciences. So, these people are scientific people, but then they need to have some standards in the pharmacovigilance science. So there are safety sciences, which is also responsible, and these groups. So these two especially are like very small group of people in a big pharma company. And so sometimes if it is an Indian pharma company, then it might be just one or two people who are basically taking care of all these things, right? And then there is also country head of office where, for example, Merck or AstraZeneca or Pfizer in a country will have one or two people who are responsible for pharmacovigilance across. And then there is a country lead and regional head and a country office head of pharmacovigilance. And then sometimes there might be just one person if it is a, not so big company, marketing operations in India, for example, right? And then, head of safety operations. So these are usually non-medical people, but then medical of MD Pharmacs also. Harshad, you'll get this slide, so don't worry. So, I have seen a lot of MD Pharmacs who spent 1 or 2 years in the operations along with non-medics, but then leveraged their medical MD pharmacology background and then quickly grew in the ladder of safety operations. And because it's such a big scope, right? So there is a need for team leads and group heads everywhere, and then that could be medics or non-medics, and they are there everywhere. Okay, so it's also quite complex. I have seen a lot of people who start in PV, they like PV, they stay back in PV. Yeah, and compared to MedAffairs, so MedAffairs is very dynamic. There's a lot of interfaces to external world or even within the company, a lot of internal stakeholders. Whereas pharmacovigilance is very structured, very methodical, very science oriented and process oriented. Right. So for the people who are not so much, who are not enjoying interactions with multiple stakeholders, may spend a lot of time or, would like to stay back in PV. Right. So we talked about different types of companies at the beginning of the presentation. So typically, and then there are exceptions, but typically you have the pharma jobs are divided into the companies which are supporting the development and marketing, right? So the Cognizants, TCS, Accenture, and some of the GCC centers also have PV, right? So the jobs that you find in these support service providers or GCCs are predominantly, the ones that you see here, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that is where it ends. But then it is a lot in volume. So you need a lot of people. A lot of jobs are there, right? So it is very easy to get jobs in these things. And then where are the other jobs lying? Okay, so usually, so the country head office, these are usually country specific. Sometimes there might be one regional lead of safety sitting in India, taking care of entire Asia Pacific in the pharmacovigilance. That is also possible. But then typically, head of safety sciences, program safety lead, starting from 5 onwards to the top, and then all these top people, safety sciences and signal leads. These people are either usually sitting in GCCs or in European and US offices of those MNC companies. Now, Indian pharmaceutical companies usually have leaner setup because we are not really developing that many new molecules. So once the drug is in the market, the machinery goes a little bit smaller. And then Indian pharma companies can basically hand over, for example, be it Reddy's or Natco or whatever, they can basically hand over their entire part of bulk of this to Accenture, right? So, and then they can still survive like that. And then moving quickly to the scope of clinical development. Okay, in the clinical development, someone said medical reviewer. So those are the initial jobs that you can get into the clinical development. right? And so usually your individual contributor role starts at looking into the data that you're collecting with CRFs. Okay, and then that will come into the database. So is the data clean? Does it make sense? Do you have to raise any queries because something is odd from a medical or scientific perspective, protocol deviations, etc. And then the next level. So once you're good with that, and if you're working in a CRO, then maybe you can also do some medical monitoring, go to the sites directly, or you interact with the sites and work on the questions that each individual sites have. And then once you are more experienced and understand the scope of clinical trials, then you will be given additional responsibility of not only data review, but also write design protocols along with others. Or the clinical trial is done, now you have to prepare the report or analysis. And then, as you get more and more experienced, you will be able to handle multiple clinical trials, right? So one drug to get approved, it requires multiple clinical trials. So then you become associate director or medical director taking care of multiple clinical trials. And then there are medical directors who basically take care of one entire drug. And then as you grow further, you will even go into taking care of one or two drugs. Okay, then you actually can divert at that level. Either you, just like medical affairs, you can grow in the direction of TA lead, where you are not really working hands-on on clinical trials, but you are providing advice and like an internal consultant about how to do clinical trials and the scientific aspects of clinical trials across different drugs, or sometimes even across different therapy areas. Or, so that is one vertical, more science and medical within the clinical development. Or there is another vertical where you basically go in the strategy aspect, right? So, okay, so I am developing this drug, but then you remember the matrix, right? So at the beginning, so there can be positions where you are program head, lead, like executive director or vice president level, where you say, okay, so I will handle the development of one or two drugs, but then I'm also responsible for manufacturing, drug discovery, market access, commercialization in one country, in multiple countries. So this is where the business aspect comes in. And then because it is the development aspect, this is where the concept of portfolio or pipeline comes in, right? So you might have seen on LinkedIn that, okay, so this company has a pipeline of 10 drugs or 20 drugs. So, that entire portfolio and pipeline. I heard one of you telling me that, okay, so how do I select what drugs do I want to develop, right? So I basically go into the drug discovery part of my company and I'll see, okay, what are the targets and leads that are available? And based on that, I connect to, okay, so what is the need in the hospitals for patients? And then how do I connect these two so that I can start developing some preclinical safety data or preclinical data in principle, and then basically pick the science from drug discovery in the direction of where the need is, focusing on the clinical development or preclinical development part. So that is also a place where people who grow into the development, but then you grow from a more broader perspective, right? So I have seen people who took the vertical path in particular domain and they're happy and they're basically retiring in it. But then there are also people, and this was one of the live example which we did in one of the workshop again that me and Melvin was doing. So the red thread that you see there is someone who actually started in medical affairs and then grew in medical affairs, came into pharmacovigilance, actually went into clinical development, came into pharmacovigilance, and then went back into the clinical development. And then this person is right now basically in drug discovery space, right? And that is also possible. There are a lot of people out there in the industry who will tell you parallel movement is not possible. It is very difficult. Yes, it is difficult, but it is not impossible, right? So if you differentiate enough, you will always move. Okay, so if anybody tells that it's not possible, they're lying either because they are insecure or they are not seen or simply because of their ignorance. Don't believe them. Right? So now more coming towards the conclusion part of mine. So it is a complex world out there. Right? So I felt a little bit, funny at the beginning when I asked, can you tell me your first job and second job? Hardly any one of you were able to think beyond the first one. Right? So what I really encourage all of you is get the big picture. Okay? In India, you like it or not, maybe for good or bad, medical affairs jobs are abundant. Right? So do you want to join the crowd or do you want to stand out and make a career for yourself? Right? So think from, okay, so if most probably I have 30 years when you're starting your job, right? So if I have 30 years, it's a marathon. So has any one of you tried marathon? Something more than 10K? Raise your hand. Or let's say 10K. Probably there are more people who have tried 10K, right? So for people who are doing marathon, the 42 kilometers is not easy. You have to train yourself, right? So there is this Boston Marathon or Barcelona Marathon where people say, okay, so I want to do Boston Marathon. And they will say, I want to go for Boston Marathon in 5 years from now or 3 years from now. And then they fix that is my goal, but then I have to train myself. Right? So if I want to be able to, so this is 2025. So if I want to run Boston Marathon in 28, I don't start end of 27 or I don't start at the beginning of 28. I start today. I split. Okay, so in 25, I'll do this. In 26, I do this. In 27, I do this. Then I will basically, hopefully, I'm ready for competing in Boston Marathon, right? So our career of 30 years is also a marathon, right? So med affairs is hot and sexy, but there is a lot beyond that, right? So whatever we do, being med affairs or pharmacovigilance or medical affairs, so it is not right if I don't say this. So the whole crux of this drug development and pharma industry marketing selling, the core is patients, right? So what are we doing, and whatever we are doing, why are we doing this, is to make sure that the patient is benefiting. Either you are developing the drug, you are doing that because you develop one drug which will be used by millions of people, and the amount of satisfaction that you get, that even if you are part of one clinical trial, and then a few years later, you see that the drug gets approved and is being used. Trust me, I had, you won't get that easily. I had that experience 2 times in my life so far. The experience, the satisfaction that you get is immense, right? And then talking about medical affairs again. So in medical affairs, the patient is centered because your intention is that you are communicating the science to the consumers or prescribers. Not consumers, customers or prescribers. So in such a way that the drug that is already approved is used in a maximal effect, and then the patients who are eligible to receive the drug are not missed out. Similarly, in pharmacovigilance, whatever you are doing is to make sure that you get enough data and analyze that the drug that patients are using are safe, and then as long as the drug is safe, the drug can stay in the market forever, right? There are drugs which are withdrawn from the market. There are drugs which are still in the market, which are like 60, 70, 80 years old. The reason for that is pharmacovigilance, right? So how can you basically grow in this direction? Understanding that it is a marathon, it is so complex, and the most successful people in the industry or in the globe, they tend to be simple at start, right? So now I have shown you the big picture. I have complicated your minds, your careers so much. So let me try to simplify this for you, right? So the really simple thing is, if I want to grow, then I need to take care of three things, right? So one is IQ, and IQ is like, whatever you're learning in MD Pharmacology is probably 20% of the IQ. And then, learn more about different domains, right? So this is IQ. I don't have to explain it. So IQ is basically the knowledge that you are acquiring. And then EQ. So EQ is emotional quotient. You can acquire it, you can develop it, right? So some people have more EQ quotient because of the environment that they grew as a kid or as a young adult. For some people, the EQ will evolve once you start working with different people, right? So I personally, I don't know, my EQ quotient might have been like in negative until I completed my MD Pharma. But then I worked in medical affairs for 1 year. I really understood, okay, so if I'm talking to somebody outside the company or inside the company, but far away. So what is important for them? What is important for me? So emotional quotient is nothing but being aware of self-awareness and social awareness, and you combine those two to make sure that your work and others' work is also getting done. And then there is a third component, which is personality. Personality is you. You're gonna change that, right? So you acquire IQ, you acquire EQ, and then you basically look into what is your personality. And now I don't know, some of you may have heard about Ikigai. So it also goes on similar concept. So you combine these things, and then you will find your passion. You'll gradually learn what you will like, and then you will evolve, right? So that basically completes my session. But I know some questions are coming up already. What I would encourage is keep your questions coming in the Q&A part. So we will take that. But then I think now I'll hand it over to Melvin at this moment. So here me and Melvin are also doing a little bit of a promotion where, so me and Melvin are MD Pharmacology contemporaries from 2006, 2007 to 2010 time. So we came together a few years back and say, okay, so let's bring some training aspects to students which they are not getting conventionally, and we try to structure that in the form of a course. And Melvin will basically explain what is happening in that course and how to go about it as well. And whatever slides that I explained here, like I said, we are doing some workshops that is also coming from this course. And we read in this course, there are different modules, and in each module there will be depth, but then also there are workshops at the beginning and the end where we combine everything. And then there are also some sessions which are focusing on the EQ aspect as well, with communication skills, etc., etc. So Kamal, we grilled Kamal a lot last year on this one. So if you need more details from a student perspective, ask Kamal later. But I think, Melvin, this is where I'll hand it over to you. And I think, Harshad, you will take care of presentation, right?
Yeah, I'll wait for the presentation. Yeah, thank you, Sreekanth. So Sreekanth has probably given you an overview of what it is like to be in the pharma industry, especially having a big picture, having a long-term planning. And essentially what he has spoken is what is going to be shown to you in the course that we are organizing at SRM University. So I'm just going to talk to you about this course, certificate course in pharmaceutical development. This is a hybrid course, and it's a very unique course because this is a course that it's not just trying to give you some knowledge sharing, but it's basically making you go through an experience where you get an opportunity to interact, to communicate, and to engage with different people, especially people who have a lot of experience being in the pharma industry for more than a decade. And in the process, you will know maybe something like an osmosis would happen to help you understand how the industry works. So what I can say for sure is, looking at the feedback that I've seen from the last few batches of students, is that people's perspective of what the industry is totally changes, or they get a better understanding of how to go about planning their careers ahead. Okay, so this course is not just about getting a job. Obviously, as Sreekanth said, there are hundreds of places where jobs can be obtained, but it's not. That's not the starting point for us. We believe in something that is much bigger than that, and we believe that through this course you can plan your career in a much better way. So this is a hybrid course, as I said in the beginning. It has a. You can go to the next slide, Harshit. So there is a offline and an online part. So the online event is something where you have around 50 webinars that spread around 6 to 7 months, 50 webinars, and usually it's around 1 to 2 webinars per week. And apart from these webinars, you will also be given some projects and case studies where you will get an opportunity to interact within your groups and also interact with different industry experts. Apart from this online sessions, we are also having 2 offline sessions, one at the beginning of the course and one at the end of the course. So the one that happens at the beginning of the course is a 2-day event, which usually happens on a weekend, which gives you an opportunity to improve your soft skills. It's a workshop on soft skills development. Sreekanth was talking about EQ, IQ, and all that. So many of the aspects of the soft skills is something that's not really touched at in our usual academic environment that we have, and it's something so important, not just for being in the industry, but for any professional. And and the feedback has also been always very, very positive when it comes to soft skill development course. So that will be a good starting point for the delegates, even if any of you are going to be part of it, where you will understand how the industry works, how the thinking process, how the thought process happen, how to engage with people, how to get things done, how to negotiate, how to make an influence in a group, things of this kind, which are of immense value for every one of us as a scientific professional. So that is something that happens right at the beginning. And then at the end of the course, we have a 5-day offline session again. So the offline sessions will happen in SRM Medical College, that is in Chennai, in suburban Chennai. And as I said, the offline session, which is happening at the end of the course, it will be going on for a period of 5 days. 1 day will be for the examination. Since it's a course, you obviously have to write an examination at the end, where we will be evaluating you of what you have essentially learned during that 6 months. And apart from the examination, written examination and the Viva, we will also be having 3 modules, 1 module for pharmacovigilance, 1 for clinical development, and 1 for medical affairs. And apart from that, there is a very important module on career development. Okay, so you just had a brief gist of what that career development session is will be like, and how to prepare yourself for interviews and things of that kind. All would be discussed during the career development session. And apart from all this, you get an opportunity, most importantly, to network with people, a group of people who are the core faculty members running this course. We have Dr. Sreekanth here, who's the brainchild of this course. And apart from Dr. Sreekanth, there are almost some 15 different faculty who will be actively involved, and even some of them are international faculty. So you get an opportunity to be a part of this group of industry experts whom you can have this relationship at a more long-term level, who can guide you and mentor you throughout your career. And apart from this, the Dr. Sreekanth from since last year has introduced a very attractive award, which I should say, and that is the Dr. Gattu Sign-Up Scholarship Award. This is given to the 2 best outgoing students of every batch. So the first prize of the would be 50,000 rupees cash prize, and the second prize would be 25,000 rupees. So this is what the students get. So literally, it's like for a student who's participating and who's winning the prize, obviously it's like a cashback reward for him. And the process for this whole course is we have a simple entrance examination where the students would be given some MCQs followed by a interview, and subsequently they'll be informed that they're selected for the course, and that's how it goes. So the last slide, please. Yeah, so this is some of the alumni pictures that you can see here. As you can see, most of these are people who have been part of I shouldn't say most, all of these people are basically the alumni of this course. They're all doing very well in different international pharmaceutical companies, okay, in different cities in our country, and in pharmacovigilance, in med affairs, clinical development. So this is just a testament to the fact that how this course has been a foundation in their career, in building their career, and we will of course get to meet some of these people also during this course. So I'm sure that this course will be something that will be a great fillip for you in understanding what the industry looks like, and also planning your careers and building a pathway through which you can grow forward in your career. Okay, it's not as simple as just getting a job, but something beyond that, and that's what this course is trying to do. And of course, we have the usual basics like any other course. At the end of it, you will be getting a certificate, which will say that you are now completed this certificate course in pharmaceutical development. And definitely that will augur well for you when you face any interview, to say that you have done something beyond just an MD Pharmacology to understand what the industry is. It will certainly make you a much attractive candidate for anyone who's on the other side of the interview process, who's trying to hire you for a job. So if there are any questions now, you could put it in the chat box, either about this course or about your career and all that. So I once again want to thank the organizers of this program for putting this sessions together for Sreekanth and myself to talk about this important topic. And with this, I just hand over the time to the organizers.
Thanks, Melvin. Maybe I'll just add one point about the course, which may not be so obvious, but it is certainly very important and attractive. So what is happening is, over the years, we are now calling it as CPD. There was a predecessor, P2PC, and we have created, it organically formed a group of alumni, right? And what we are really trying hard is to keep this alumni group very live. So in fact, we had earlier this year in February, we had our first alumni face-to-face meeting, where people who have completed their MD and are part of this course, and they are doing well in the industry, but at different levels. So there were some people who were in first 2 years, some people who are in 5 years, some people who are 8 years, and so on and so forth. So we are virtually connected all the time. And I have seen, let's say there was a senior from CPD, P2PC from a junior, and then you always have some sort of a bond or connect between those two. And then, although there is no official career placement part, so that is, this alumni basically serves as, okay, so, we are all part of one family, one group, and then let's see, and there are informal mentorships that are happening, informal connections, informal friendships, right? So, and then, it also happens that we will keep this alumni meet live on a yearly basis or an alternative yearly basis. And then you're done, and then you complete your course, and then you walk out, and then you are done. So CPD and P2PC is an association, is an alumni group where your benefits of this are coming over a lifetime part, over a long-term career part. And when you are preparing for your 30-year marathon, you would need support on a career aspect, on personal aspect. Now, all of us will have families, and then how are you making decisions when you are in the middle of you need to prioritize family or career. So these things are informally and formally continuously discussed in the alumni. So you're getting the course, you're getting the certificate, but you're also getting a family. I think for me personally, that's the more important incentive or motivation to be part of this whole thing. So that's I really want to mention about that now. So probably I'll stop here. So I already see some questions. I think among the organizers, I hope one of you will take the lead. So let's play between the questions that I see in the chat, but then also I really want people to open up their camera and talk, because in corporate, if you don't speak up, you don't exist. Okay, and Melvin, I see a couple of questions also from DM and academia perspective. So maybe we'll pull you in as we go through.
Sure.
So we actually have copy pasted all the questions which are asked in chat into PPT. So
okay.
So we'll start with Bala first. So he had a very long question.
Yes, Bala wanted to ask a question directly. Bala, go on. Yeah. BCG, Bain, Deloitte, etc. Yeah. 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 Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So that's a good question. In fact, when we had the recent alumni meet, we actually had a management consultant who was working in a consulting firm right now as a senior partner. Who he came to meet the alumni, and we discussed about it. So to answer your question, so when you want to join in a management consulting firm, so the kind of roles are a little bit similar to med affairs. So the beginning roles, you have to slog. Forget about sleeping, forget about family life. You have to deliver. There are a lot of Netflix series, which give you a flavor of how jobs in consulting firms look like. Okay, so that is how the life looks as you grow further up. So your life becomes a little bit better, but the amount of pressure is immense, because they will pay you like super good, right? So even a very high-paying med affairs or marketing job in pharma is not comparable to somebody who's earning in McKinsey Bain after, let's say, 3 to 5 years, right? So, but that comes with a cost, and there are people who love it, who enjoy it, right? So that's how the job look like. What exactly do? They basically go look into the business aspect of a pharmaceutical company, right? And the role there is not necessarily restricted to pharma, right? So if you are working in a company like this, so you will have a project for 3 months or 6 months related to pharma, and then you will go and work on a petroleum industry project, or an agri related or a tech related, right? So if you join this company, forget that you are a medical doctor, right? Then what is exactly required for this kind of jobs is, one, critically thinking and analyzing a lot of data. Two, what exactly is the requirement of my client? What does this company want to achieve, and how million. So now, when you look at what is required to deliver these two, you being MBBS, you being MD Pharma has absolutely no advantage to it, right? So if you are working in a pharma or medical, then yes, there is a little bit of background. But if there is a very good critically thinking, analytical thinking person, that person can surpass the MD Pharma in almost every aspect, right? So, and I had very open, candid discussions with some people from McKinsey, and then from IQVIA and all this. Also, the speaker from earlier this year. So I'll be pragmatic. I won't raise your hopes. So, if you want to get into McKinsey, Bain, BCG, IQVIA, Deloitte, one, you do MBA from premium institutes, IIM, ISB, or Ivy League business schools from US and Europe. Then they are more open to absorb you. Or you are in top medical colleges like KEM or AIMS or these kind of things, and during your MD, you already start speaking to these companies, whatever these big hospitals may have some connections or some projects with these, and there you get an entry because McKinsey, BCG, Bain, IQVIA already know that you have this mindset, right? So joining MD Pharma without an MBA and without this thing, there is not easy way to go there. Second question, Bala. Your degree will only take you to the interview table, right? So it will secure an interview for you. If be it pharmacovigilance or medical affairs or even nowadays in clinical development, right? So interview is a process where I meet Bala, Sreekanth meets Bala, and I would like to know, do you have the right attitude, personality, and knowledge to do this? I have seen MPharm PhDs who have more IQ and EQ than MD Pharma. So even at the selection process, you don't have advantage already. And then once you are in the industry, you will be working with non-medics. It could be, so MD is working with MBBS people, MD is working with non-medical people, actually doing the same job as MD Pharma person is doing, right? So my humble request to all 40 people who are sitting here, now throw your ego in the dustbin. You are not special. You can make yourself special by your behavior. That is where the EQ part comes in. Your personality comes in, right? So the way industry treats you, you add value. You deliver and you add value, then you are my asset. You could be a medic, you could be MD, you could be DM. As long as you are adding value to the company, as long as you are adding value to the people around you, you are good. Again, a little bit of bitter truth that we all have to swallow. Yeah, 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 yeah. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, so I mean, see, this course will not prepare you for to become an entrepreneur. I'll be clear, right? So, I have seen people who started their companies right after MD without any industry experience. I have also seen people who worked in the industry for few years and started. And then I have seen people who were in the industry like for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and then they start the company, right? So, my personal opinion, it is always better to spend some time in the industry, you know the business, and then you start your company. I'll come to that. I'll come to that. So, no, first of all, I was focusing on do I right away do it or work in the industry and then do it. My personal preference would be know the business and then start it. Okay. Uh, Coming to your question about which domain, you can basically start anywhere. But if I have to go back in time and do this, I would start in metaverse. Because metaphors is a little bit like jack of all trades. You have to do a little bit about everything, right? So you can work in metaphors for a few years and start a firm which supports metaphors, which supports HEOR, which supports medical writing and publishing, which supports data science, artificial intelligence, which supports clinical development. So work start in metaphors. Okay, so 2 years, try to understand a little bit about everything, and then you can see. Okay, so India is a boom for startup, right? So if you are getting an idea that in metaverse I can do this, metaverse support for product launch or product lifecycle maintenance, there are probably thousands of people who are getting the same idea, right? So then, okay, so this market is too busy. I want to start a service which is quite unique in itself. So to understand that part, you may have to spend a little bit more time, do a little bit more networking, and it will click you, right? So and that click may come in first year, may come in after 10 years, right? So it is up to you how you can get it done. And then when you start the journey of being entrepreneur, this is not specific to pharma. You will fail, right? So you will fail multiple times, and depending on when you are doing all this stuff, your wife or husband may leave you. Your family may hate you, and if you are lucky, if your wife and family is supporting, and there are, fortunately, there are some people who do that. So it's a tough journey. If you are ready for it, get started, and probably start with metaphors. Yeah.
Okay, so my question is an extension to Dr. Bala's first question. So we talked about job roles where there tends to be a lot of overlap between people that are coming from both medical and non-medical backgrounds. So my question is, are there any job roles that cater or prefer rather people that are coming from medical background, maybe like MD Pharmacs or just doctors in general?
No.
Straightforward answer.
No. So there was time where people used to think like that. Now, not I can't think of any job which is exclusively for a medical doctor. Forget about MD Pharma. Okay, so you have a lot of competition. Okay, so that's the reality. And whenever I get this question, and then for the last few years, I started thinking about other way around. Okay, so we are thinking that okay, so this is medical, this is my domain, and I want to get into this space, and there should be some space for me. Why can't we think other way around, right? So why can't we go outside these jobs and prove that the medical doctor can also do this job as good as somebody who's an MBA, right? So I think we should start thinking like that, right? So my job that I'm doing right now doesn't, the job doesn't expect the person to be a medical doctor. In fact, if you're a medical doctor, you may end up a bit biased, and then you have to control your conscious and unconscious bias, right? So there are medical doctors who go into the business aspect, the management consulting aspect, commercial aspect, right? So one of my commercial head here in Sandoz, Switzerland, he's a medical doctor, not India, but he's a medical doctor, but he's leading commercial group of biosimilars. So think like this, right? So there is an advantage that you are carrying with medical. So don't think entitled, but then use this as an advantage, not only to excel in the medical space, but then in the industry, you go to uncomfortable zones where you being medic will become an advantage. There is, to make you happy, there is only one place that I can think of where you have to be a medical doctor. That is the medical affairs. Not even all, but some medical affairs jobs in UK where you have to be a GMC registered physician to sign on the document that a patient will be using or a doctor will be using, right? So that's the only job that I can think of. Nothing else.
All right. Thank you, sir, for your straightforward answer. So I think we'll move on with the rest.
I have a question actually to both of them. It's a bit of a personal question because the sense like there's so many dilemmas, right? So I want to ask first Dr. Sreekanth saying, at what point did you decide that getting into the industry was your calling? And was there a moment or was there a sort of an exposure that made you go towards that direction? And I want to ask Melvin sir also the same. At what point did he decide to pursue a career in academics? Like what was the decision was based on what points? Firstly, and secondly, there are multiple courses available online these days. So there's one course called Diploma in Pharmaceutical Medicine. This is being offered by the I think in UK. So I want to ask at what point do we decide that, okay, fine, I do this course and then I will be good for this job? Because, and then I can see a lot more certifications that are being offered online, Coursera, name it, any online education platform, there's another course. So how important are all of these courses? And so these are my two questions.
So I'll answer the first part first, and then Melvin, you go, and then we come back to the other questions. So see, when after my MBBS, I wanted to be emergency medicine physician. I was keen on surgery and all that part. But as life will decide. I need money, and I started working in Medicity, Hyderabad, and Nizam's Hyderabad, where I was introduced to clinical trials. Right? So in less than 1 year after I completed my MBBS, I started working on clinical trials, and I liked it. So after 2 years of working in 1.5 year to 2 years working in Nizam's Institute on I was talking to people at the beginning, right? So I was also too lazy. I didn't want to go through, the whole NEET predecessor and then wait and choose and all those things. I was clear. I want to do MD Pharmacology and I want to do it in a city, right? And I went for paid seat. I don't have any shame to talk about that. So I went there, and then I went for the paid seat. I did there, and then whatever I could gather in the PG period. So my goal, and this is where I come back when I was designing this whole course, including today's webinar. It was very clear for me. I want to be in clinical development. Period. Right? Because I was doing clinical trials. I liked it. I wanted to be in the space where I will be part of the designing clinical trials, but on the pharma side. Right? So it was clear. I kept that in my goal, and do I reach my goal in 2 years, 10 years, 5 years? I had no clue. I just said I will do that. But then after I finished my MD, I was hoping to join in Icon, because Icon has this thing in Chennai. So I was thinking that I will join Icon as a medical monitor. But then again, I got an opportunity to join MedAffairs. So I worked in MedAffairs for a year. And then luckily, Novartis Hyderabad happened, and then I went into the clinical development side. So it is very important for you to keep, what is it that you want to go there, and then keep working on it. Sometimes path may be clear. Sometimes you'll say, okay, so I have to do this, or I want to do this, but I don't know when I'll reach that stage. But don't take your eyes off what you want to achieve, as like some sort of a goal. Melvin, your turn.
Yeah. Sometime after I finished my MD and joined the DM course, I started getting the opportunity to be involved in different clinical trials in JIPMA. So that was the time I got the. So I think some quiet kid. Yeah. So that was the time I got the interest towards doing clinical trials, and soon after completing my DM and JIPMA, I got this opportunity to be a part of organization here, SRM, where there was a clinician who was looking for a guy who would help him in setting up a clinical trial unit in the Department of Cardiology. So it just so happened that right after I finished my education, this opening came up in Chennai, and I joined that place, not sure of what the future is like and all that. I thought, okay, let me experiment, because this is related to what I studied, so let me join here. And it's close by, so the comfort factor also came in. So I joined in, but after joining in, and over the years growing there, I realized that I was getting that that factor of really being challenged, really being getting that feeling that you're doing something worthwhile through the clinical trials. Like I've been part of some of the large clinical trials which led to FDA approvals of those drug molecules. So that satisfaction that they got of being part of all those major trials, major studies, and then leading teams and building people for clinical research. Like all of you spoke about working with different kinds of people, especially in the non-medical stream. So I have been involved in building several people's clinical research path careers over the years, and that has given me a lot of satisfaction to mentor people. And that's why I've never looked really hard at something outside in the industry, because I feel I'm doing a reasonable job and it's giving me a lot of satisfaction. But I can also say that I have seen a lot of people who have been part of the industry for a while, maybe 5 years, 10 years, and then come to academics, not because they wanted to have a retirement life, but because they felt that they have achieved what they wanted in industry. Now they want to contribute in the academics, and vice versa. There are some people who have been in academics for, say, 3 years, 4 years, and they feel they're not going anywhere. And then they take it to make it a point, okay, enough is enough with academics, let me go to the industry. So the point I'm trying to tell here is that don't be afraid to experiment. Okay, the first 2 years, 3 years, be willing to take risk. It's not like you're going to lose some years because you entered academics. It's not that you're going to lose some years because you entered industry and then come back to academics. Be courageous, be bold to take different paths from what you see around you. In fact, be open to take new challenges. And nowadays, it's more than academics, industry. There are many other new things that are coming up. So be willing to experiment. Okay, and once the first 3 to 5 years, I think you really do have time. So it's not something that it's a mad rush that we have to get settled as early as possible. As long as they pay you well, your basic needs are covered. You can be in the place that keeps you comfortable and the place which helps you take challenges. Hope I answered your question.
I think sir wanted to take the second part of the question as well, Sreekanth sir. I think you're on mute, sir.
Yes, sorry. So the second question, you need to repeat the second question. I don't have such a long memory.
Different courses, I think he was asking.
There's another, yes, sir. So basically, so there's this other course called Diploma in Pharmaceutical Medicine, which is offered by the Faculty of Pharmaceutical Medicine in the UK. And so I wanted to ask, because there are multiple courses. So, yeah.
So see, the Diploma Med is a very good course who want to understand the drug development aspects, different aspects of drug development at a global level, right? So it will really help if you want to increase the knowledge, right? So I would not push people, but if your appetite for knowledge is like, okay, so MD Pharmacology is good, and then I'm attending conferences, workshops, I'm understanding more about pharma applied aspects, but I really want to understand about the drug development, then do that. Okay. And nowadays, I think you can give both theory and practical also in India, if I understood correctly, right? But like I said, don't expect that this course or certificate will give you a job. Either that course or the CPD course or any other course will only take you to the interview room. It will not guarantee you any job. Okay, so do courses if you for 2 reasons mainly, right? So do courses if you want to really learn about that. Second reason, do courses so that you can increase your network. Third, which is not my favorite, but that's how the world runs, do courses if it is a premium institute. And if it is a premium institute, you by default get 1 or 2 as well anyway. Plus it is expensive. So do any courses for only these 3 reasons.
Thank you, sir. I have one last question.
Keep your expectations flat, okay? So you will get the job for you. Your courses will not get you a job. Your MD Pharma, MBA will not get. So it is you and your personality, your IQ, your EQ will fetch you a job.
Okay. So one more follow-up question. So we had this other interaction where Dr. Viraj, he was this medical director from Roche. So he shared this incident where I think he was just turning 60 in 2 years, Dr. Viraj. So he said, the company, the management asked him to step down. And then he said, I just had 2 more years to retire. But it was like he recalled it in a very sweet way. But then, for a person of my age, like who's trying to get into the industry, the way I saw it was, for a person to be in that stature, and then I'm sure he's delivered, right? To be asked to step down, without, any expectation. And he took it well. So for me, it's like, okay, so in terms of job security, like how is pharma industry? Is it that cutthroat? Like because that's one of the factors that they always say, right? So when you're looking ahead, academics, they always say, okay, you have a secured life. There's always, you're always employed. And then there's not a point where you'll go unemployed. So how do we see this?
So there is no job security for any job nowadays. Okay, so again, I'm breaking your myth if you feel that this is a bad news and I'm bringing bad news, but that's the reality. There is no job security anywhere. The way corporate industry will look at you, are you adding value? Then you stay. When you say adding value, then they will always look at the value that you are bringing versus how much the company is spending on you. Is that justified? If the answer is yes, you have the job. If the answer is no, then you are in the uncomfortable space, right? So yes, I know Viraj, and I know him personally as well, and I keep following him. He's a great guy, extremely knowledgeable person, right? But not only his case, this the need to prove to the company and to people that you are adding value is something that starts from day one, right? So sometimes people consciously do it. Sometimes if you just do your job, your work speaks for it, right? So you just need to be there. So that's the reason why 30 years is very difficult, right? So, I mean, nowadays we're talking about like Instagram age. I mean, I get orgasm in few seconds professionally, right? So, when you think like that, this medical affairs job is something that gives me, fine, we do that. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, you get maxed out. I have a pet project. If someone is interested, reach out to me offline. I really want to look into MD Pharmacs from India, and then who joined the industry, and then how is their curve looking like. I can guarantee you, and this is also part of an experiment, right? So I have a hypothesis. I want to test this hypothesis, but my working hypothesis is for more than 80% of people, they get maxed out in 10 years. After 10 years, they have no clue what they want to do. And as a consequence, they will either salary gets flat or the kind of jobs will get flat. Imagine, I showed you the medical affairs thing, right? So people grow all the way up to medical director of a company. Let's say it takes 10 years or 12 years to reach there. You still have 20 years or 15 years before you retire or you want to retire. Okay, so if you are working as medical director in Pfizer, right? So you work as medical director for 3 years, 4 years. Because of inflation, I keep paying you more, right? And then you are such an expensive asset for me, where I know that somebody who's like young and dynamic, who has 8 years experience, can do exactly the same job as you at half the price that I'm paying you. Why should I keep you? No disrespect to you. I totally respect you, but you are at this moment too expensive asset. Now, if I want to keep you, you prove me that I can keep you beyond as a medical director in this company, maybe chief medical officer, right? Then you still have a path in that direction. And this is also one of the reasons why, be it in this webinar, but also in the course of CPD, so that don't fall for quick happinesses, right? So keep your goal as midterm, long term, and then you can space out, right? So I'll be very open. We are not recording this, right? So I'll be open that there were. You are recording.
Yeah.
It's recording.
Okay,
We will
and
chop
then
this part up. No, sir,
I'll
we'll chop
be.
this part
We'll
up.
cut
We'll
this
chop
part.
this
I'll
part.
pause the recording, sir. I'll pause the recording, so you can proceed.
No,
Then
so you don't have to. I can choose my words. So see, there were moments in my career as well, like fantastic. Somebody told me that to become a medical director in clinical development part, it will take 15 years for me. So I managed to crack it in 8 years, and then further beyond that. And then there was one of my colleagues from Novartis. We had similar accelerated paths, and I'm not kidding you. 1 year back, both of us were sitting together. अभी 15 साल है क्या करना है हमको right? So we maxed out, and then we just kept on exploring. And one of my colleague who had similar situation, he basically said, "ठीक है, I'm a medical director at a global level, so now I will not slog at the company." And then he started 21 summit thing. So he went to all mountain peaks, and that became part of his life. So people start exploring what else will give me passion. So depending on how you look at it, you see is work only my passion or something else. So it's a marathon. So I think that's the bottom line.
Thank you, sir.
Arshad, can you unmute Dr. Amit, but he's trying to speak? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for this chance, Sreekanth sir. So as you mentioned, I mean, your passion was always taking part in a clinical trial. Now, with regards to both a clinical trial and working at a CRO, there are a number of legal aspects which are, associated with that. So, would the course in medical law and ethics offered by the National Law School in Bangalore be of any help when it comes to having to work in a CRO? Would that be a feather in the cap compared to another person who wants to work at the same CRO?
So Amit, this is a very niche area, right? So any knowledge that you earn will definitely help. Okay, so if you are working in a CRO and do laws and ethics, you will be medical reviewer or medical director in a CRO who can use that knowledge in your day-to-day job, right? So there are two ways of looking at it. So I will do, the different paths that I'm doing. I showed you, right? So you will do the same job, but then you have that additional, laws and ethics part in your brain. It will improvise your work that you are doing, and then, you will be a unique person in that community, right? So that is one way of utilizing this course. The other way of utilizing this course is, there are legal and patent departments in pharma companies, right? So there you can probably go there as well, but then you are competing with dinosaurs and elephants there, right? So you will be working in a department where people have completed LLBs and masters in laws and worked in law firms and come in here. So I think that can also be a space, but I'll have to be honest, I have not seen a medic who's working in legal or patent in a pharma company. At least not in my network.
Thank you. That indeed was very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Who's next? So was that also Amit's question? Wouldn't having a high EQ be detrimental?
Yeah, it's
That was me.
No, it wouldn't be detrimental. I think what you are referring to is if you are over smart. Is that your question? Is that where you're coming from?
Not exactly. I mean, when we assured a high EQ with somebody with has a lot of empathy, and when somebody has a lot of empathy, at times it can be it can be detrimental. It wouldn't be an asset to that person, because in a corporate world, it's not really helpful.
Yeah. So empathy alone is not EQ, right? So EQ has two main components: self-awareness and social awareness, right? So you need to have empathy, but as you grow in corporate sector, you have to become a good leader. So a good leader will have high EQ, but the good leader knows how much of that EQ should be used in different situations. There are places where you need to be very assertive. There are places or situations where you need to be very empathetic. And there are situations where you need to be a little bit of both. So the leader will have high EQ, but he or she knows how to use that IQ in different situations and to what proportions. If you don't have high EQ, then you can't use that anyway. So I would rather have high EQ and use it wisely.
Thank you.
Okay, who's next?
We can go through these questions which have been posted in the chat.
So will you read it, or I can also read
Yeah,
it? So
yeah.
how frequently will we be traveling in medical affairs? So if you are on a field-based role, you will travel a lot. And when I say a lot, probably 50 to 60% of a month. If you are in head office based roles, you will still be traveling, but you will travel maybe once a month or a few times in a quarter. That is in med affairs. Which are prominent cities for medical affairs jobs? I think the way I understand, I'm a little bit far away from med affairs nowadays, but I keep talking to people. So med affairs has become very decentralized. So it doesn't matter which city you are living in. If your job requires you to travel to cities where there are doctors, you just get on the flight or train and go. Okay, next. We need to rush a little bit because my kids are knocking the door.
Okay, after MD in India, what are the opportunities for studying abroad? Could you please do a little on this?
So, when the question about abroad comes in, I would ask the person to really think about why you want to do that, right? So, are you doing that to acquire the knowledge and come back to wherever you are and do the job? Or do you want to do the course so that you can work abroad? There are people who have done the first part, but I think mostly people would like to do the course for the second part because you would want to get a job in that company, in that country. So yes, except US, in a lot of other Western countries, you can do a job, and then while you are doing the job, you can try for, while you are doing the course, you can try for a job, because once you are in that country, even with a course, you are a local, right? Then you network, and then you try to get a job there. US is different because someone has to sponsor your H1B, and I have seen people going there, could not crack H1B sponsorship, and then came back. Actually, a lot of them, right? Some people are like super smart. They cracked it by marrying an American spouse who has a citizenship or a green card. I'm no one to judge, but that is how things are. So if you want to do a course abroad, first of all, question, why do you want to do this? And then look at select the course and the university carefully. There are some stupid faltu universities, and you don't have any connectivity, and the likelihood to get a job after the course are zero. So don't do that. Always pick the course and the university carefully so that you can have a path open into your job market.
Okay. Could you please explain regarding UK studies, that is the CP clinical?
I think we just did that, right? So DipPharma is the same. There are people who clear PLAB, GMC registered. So Pavitra Krishnan, I don't know how many of you know. So she is MD Pharma. She worked in med affairs for 5 years, and then husband is also MD Pharma. He never worked in pharma industry. He decided to stay in the academic side of pharmacology toxicology in UK, and both of them went to UK. And Pavitra basically decided, I will do residency in psychiatry. So now she moved back into this thing. She completed her residency. She's working as a psychiatrist there. But she says, when I spoke to her last about a year back, she wanted to do that for some time, and then joined the drug development part as medical director. right,
Okay.
in UK. So that is also a path.
Can we take two more questions?
Yeah.
I want to ask you this question, which was as you said. So, to going into industry, how much role of reading formal textbooks of MD work? So,
So
what's your take?
the textbooks are already outdated by the time they are printed, right? So for industry, what I would say is, see, if I'm interviewing somebody, either in med affairs or PV or clinical development, I expect this person to know reasonably good aspects of general pharmacology, right? So ADME, PD, and the science, the clinical pharmacology aspects of side effects, if it comes to the pharmacovigilance aspect. Now, for med affairs, more than textbooks, read the treatment guidelines, read latest advances, right?
Okay.
And then any textbooks or books which give you information about the clinical trial methodology, etc., etc. So probably you have a good list. Melvin can also guide you in terms of the IQ part of the knowledge.
Okay. So, the final question is: attending conference useful for a job in the industry?
So I'll take that question, but there was one question about DM, which I just saw.
Yeah.
Maybe Melvin, do you want
Darshan,
to
can
address
you?
that?
Is there any important of DNA industry?
So I will answer this question in the same way as what is already mentioned before, that when it comes to a course, be it MBBS, MD or DM, finally what really matters is what you bring, what specific skill sets you bring to the table is what really matters. So if you're a person with a DM degree and then you bring out some skills there that really make you shine out compared to the others who are coming along with you for the interview, then probably you are going to crack it just because the DM helped you get those skills. But there could also be a situation where you had a MD, you had a DM, but what they were looking for, which is the skill set, which is the knowledge and the skill set, and what you bring to the table is not there in you, then that DM is really not going to take you and make you look different from the others. So I would say DM will definitely give you a lot of experience in doing things more than what you would have done just during your MD days. But just having DM alone is not sufficient. It is what you do during DM, the knowledge that you acquire, the experience that you acquire during your DM days, that all matters a lot. A lot of people just have a DM degree, and at the end, they are at the end of the DM course, they are not able to project themselves that saying that they did something unique during the DM period. And there are a lot of people with MD who have finished MD, but during just those 3 years of MD, they did so much. They did so much more than what the average MD person is doing, which makes them a far attractive option for the person who's hiring them. So I hope I answered your question.
Yes. So
Yeah, I can take one more question, and then I have a suggestion. I see a lot of still a lot of questions, but so come on, tell me which question can be the last question.
I think we should
So
go
can
for
you,
this one about foreign companies.
is it possible to apply in foreign companies directly after completing MD Pharma medical affairs role?
Also, as an addition to that, sir, like how important is internships during your PG program? Because I come from an area where we don't have that sort of reach here. I stay in Madhya Pradesh. So
Yeah.
is it always nice to have an internship, or is it okay without it?
See,
As in, you
I'll
can
go
answer
back
with
to
the foreign part and then this. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, I'll answer both of them. So I'll take your question, and then Kalyan also has his hand up. So I'll see if it is not a longer one, I can answer that one as well. I want to respect people who speak up. So Amrit, internship helps. It helps because, like I said, it's one of the statements that I made is, whatever you do will bring you to the interview room, but then it is you who will get you a job. So imagine 3 years course without an internship, what you can talk in that room versus if you have done even a 1 month internship, you can talk about something, right? So you will get that content, you'll get that matter, and then you get real time experience. So internship helps that way. Even if it is 1 month, even if it is painful, I would say do it. Yeah. Then what was the question?
It's about going abroad after MD Pharmacology.
Okay, so after MD Pharmacology, you will not get any jobs in a foreign country directly, period. If I am a hiring manager, let's say in Germany, and I'm hiring for a med affairs person or a medical reviewer, which for whatever reason has to be based in Germany, why should I ignore the talent in my country and hire somebody from India who has no experience? That's how it works, right? So in exceptional cases, you do your MD and you have, during your MD period, have already done a project or an internship with a firm outside India, and then you are applying in the same country, and then there is something relevance, then you're not a fresher anymore. You are already experienced fresher, so to say, right? But MD pharmacology, just like that, after that you apply, no chances. Especially about med affairs, I think this is another myth that need to be busted. Med affairs is a country-specific specialty. You become a med affairs expert at field-based or at a country level. You are becoming an expert in India. Your expertise in India cannot help you with expertise in European country or UK or US. If you want to join med affairs in US, Europe, UK, etc., you have to be there and then start from zero in that country as med affairs.
Sreekanth, sir, sorry to interrupt, but the question was like, if somebody is experienced, has gained like 5 years experience, and then he is willing to, then he has joined for MD Pharmacology, and then he is planning to go abroad, then what's your advice on that?
Yeah, that can be done. There are a lot of people who did that. So
it's my personal journey I'm sharing right now. So I've worked for 5 years in industry, and then I've joined MD Pharmacology, and I'm in my second year right now. So after completing, I'm planning to go abroad. So what's your call in that? So that was the question, sir.
So you already have experience there, right?
Yes, sir. 5 years.
Yeah. So see, in this case, you already have 5 years of experience. I have not seen any examples like you where you have experience and then you do MD Pharmac and then immediately you go abroad. But what I have seen is once you have this thing, probably you can join the industry in med affairs in India, and then while you are in the industry, back in the industry, then you can probably get jobs faster. And I have seen people move to Singapore or Asia Pacific or European region with experience. And something that matches that is like, for example, imagine I was talking to somebody who was working in Ozempic, right? So semaglutide. So in your med affairs experience in India, you have already worked on GLP-1 analogs, and there is a company who is trying to launch the generics of insulins or GLP. Then you already have a direct experience of that product, and your therapy area experience or your drug experience creates a case for you for them to pull you there. Right? So always think from the hiring manager perspective. What is it special in you that makes it a case that I hire you?
Sorry to interrupt, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Kalyan, yeah.
Sir, I have a periodic experience around, post MBBS as a clinical register, sir. Almost 5 years. There be any advantage, sir, for other abroad or India?
So I cannot answer as abroad or India, but I have seen a lot of people. I have seen pediatricians, chest physicians, anesthesiologists, surgeons, who practiced and then decided to join the industry. You already have more hands-on experience. I have seen people who have hospital experience or specialty experience take an accelerated path in all three: in clinical development, in pharmacovigilance, in metafiles. I have live examples. So if you have any practicing experience, it will always add value. So this is also something I don't want to use the word regret, but if I would have worked in hospital for a longer time, that may have added a little bit more value to my career as well personally. That was also one of the reasons why I decided to do this master's in advanced oncology. So having specialty experience definitely helps. It will not fetch you something on a plate. You have to start like everybody else, but then in your work, it will show up that you are an experienced person, and then your path goes like that. Yeah. Okay. So
Sir,
now
another. Sir, sorry. Sir, only 1 second, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, only 1 second, sir. Sir, after post MD, what are DM courses available, sir, in India or abroad? That means we can do clinical research.
DM is not an abroad concept. It is only in India. And Melvin, I think you can answer that question about the DM.
Yeah, at the moment, NMC offers DM course only in clinical pharmacology for those who have completed MD Pharmacology. At the moment, to the best of my knowledge, MD Pharmacology is not qualified for any other DM course in India.
Genetics we can do, no, sir? Actually,
it is for MD Biochemistry can do DM Genetics. MD Pediatrics can do DM Genetics. I'm not, to the best of my knowledge, MD Pharmacology is not a qualification for DM Genetics.
Okay. Endocrinology, sir, we can't do, sir.
No.
I have heard that.
Yeah, even endocrinology, it's MD General Medicine, MD Pediatrics. And I don't think MD Pharmacology is a qualification.
That's all, sir. There are no doubts.
So we'll wind up the session.
Yeah, so Kamal,
Yeah.
I don't know how many questions are still unanswered. What I can offer you is approximately, and if students still have that appetite, we can do just Q&As, picking up from today's list tomorrow around the same time as we did today, probably 30-45 minutes or something like that. That is something that I can offer, but you discuss among the group and let me know if you want that. We can do. Otherwise, also is fine.
Sure, sir. That's very generous of you to offer your time once again. I think we've reached towards the end of the session. Heartfelt thank you to both Dr. Sreekanth and Dr. Melvin, sir, for your insights, journey, and guidance. It has truly expanded our vision of what life can be after our graduation. Thank you so much for joining all of us, and good evening, and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for both of you for giving this time for us. So, still, we are hoping for much more sessions in the future.
Yes.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah. Good night.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Bye-bye.